Welcome to your second exhibition here, and congratulations. I'd really am interested in the techniques that you use, and I wondered if you could just spend a bit of time talking a little bit about the work that you're doing, what inspires you.
Okay, so the work that I work predominantly with a unique type of embroidery. It's most commonly called freehand machine embroidery, where you're drawing with a sewing machine. So my sewing machine is literally like a pencil for me, but I'm drawing with threads and stitches. And I draw onto a base fabric that later is dissolved away. It's washed away in water. So every stitch that I do eventually ends up standing on its own. So I create freestanding sculptures or pieces that can be pinned off a backing board so they sort of float in space rather than being on a base fabric like traditional embroidery would be.
And each of your pieces are extraordinarily delicate.
Well, I use very, very tiny stitches. I'm also very interested in natural forms and structures. I've always been very inspired by leaf structures, coral structures, and the networks of how things grow and how they function and live, and the similarities between those structures. And it's a very delicate thing. We're looking at minute vein systems within leaves and tiny, tiny elements of natural things. So the delicacy comes from, you know, using very delicate materials, very fine threads, very strong threads, but also I suppose the way that I try and stitch is to create something that's very light and delicate and beautiful, somewhat replicating the natural forms that inspire me.
So why is it that you've really gone down into using threads rather than pencils to make your marks? What is it about the thread?
I love the thread for the fact that it is sculptural in itself. You know, it's a beautiful, luminous, long, glossy thing, and when you sort of twine it together and knot it together, it's so much more tactile than just a line drawn. I find, and that's also why I work on the water-soluble fabric, because I like the work to be liberated from the base cloth. So it's sort of like a drawing that is in air. And this is, I've found, a really successful way to do that. You could never do it with a pencil.
And is it a surprise when you wash away the solvay?
Every time. It's my favourite part. You spend so long making something, so long sewing it. You have a bit of an idea of how it's going to look, but once you dissolve it, it's the aha moment, and it's the best part. It's my favourite part.
And I'd love you to talk to one of these very beautiful pieces that's behind you, and just talk a little bit about some of the technicalities of how long it's taken you, an approximate amount of thread.
Oh, that's a big question. Well, these are some of my smallest works. So these are, in terms of time, these are my quickest to produce. I can produce one of these in about a day's work, while some of my larger pieces can take weeks and months, depending on how constantly I'm working on them. These sorts of pieces, so like this example, this little leaf example, actually uses a range of different coloured threads. There's probably about 5 different thread colours in that, but with thread, of course, unlike paints that you can mix in so many multitudes of shades and tones, I'm stuck with the thread colour I have. So to get around with that, I'll often use different combinations of threads, use more than one at a time, and they kind of blend together in the stitching process, and that way I can get a gradation of colours and tones, more so than if I was just to use the one colour all the time. This one is obviously based off a leaf structure that I very painstakingly mapped out and then just honed in. And the reason that all of these are circles is because that's the circle shape of hoop that I use for this particular range of work, so that they have a uniform link.
And they certainly sing together, don't they?
I think so. I love seeing them all together, because you work on one at a time, but when they come together, there's a conversation happening.
And what's in the future for you, Meredith?
The future for me, I just hope to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm really lucky and privileged to be able to work and live as an artist. I think, you know, it's a very blessed way to be. So I'm just, every exhibition I have, I get more opportunities, I get more exposure, and consequently sales, which is what keeps me going, and also get really good positive feedback, which is the best thing. Next year I'm going overseas. I'm teaching a few workshops over there, so that's an exciting step for me, but I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and hope it takes me to new and exciting places.